Hello, this is Gerald Overmars. I've worked out, and I'm still working out a bit further to make it even more practical, theory that has a foundation for all the letters as focuses, as positions, as directions, and as orientations. And you have different categories which become more and more complex when we also add more and more elements. But actually, there's something very simple inside them. It's only the practical thing has to be worked out a little bit further, and I'm going to have an extra idea in this video that makes it also more practical to use it for the problems that you can have in mixing all the positions and directions and so on. And that will confuse too much if you focus too much on finding really a steady place for everything, as if you have a form and you want to have everything into a formation or a formation process as clear as possible. It's not always possible to have that immediately like that. You have to deal with a lot more things. And actually the dealing with these things are also embedded in these categories of complexity. And so you have here the positions. We tend to also see everything as having a position, as having a steady position, or at least having the tendency to come to something that has a certain fixed idea of fixed position. But the things in the world are not all perfectly fixable or fixed. They also should be able to be described in a way how they are not, how they are more open to adaptation, to that we have to adapt to what we encounter, and so on. So these categories themselves have an influence as well. So most of the time, and all my way through investigating the theory that I called first the sound in form, it was also my intention to produce the sounds as forms, so that you can see, okay, what's happening there. I can describe them in a way that you can also see that into a form. It's always intended immediately that, and you have to deal with the things that change. And that was always a little bit a problem to have a well practice. A practical theory for that, because I have to make the puzzle, and so even that part is possible to deal with these aspects, that you find these things much more easy if we deal with these aspects immediately from the start and have them categorized into one of these three positions always, and deal with these things always in the same way. And what I want to say is there is a category of letters. The most simple category of letters is almost like, okay, you hear certain sounds, mostly like the clicks and or sounds that can continue in the same way as they do, like the a or the t as clicks. Let's say you have positions, as the idea of positions in space, so you have something to start from, and there you have that fixed idea very quickly. Actually, it's like, okay, I have something to work with. But when it's moving, when it's the same as we hear it, when they have sounds that have a tendency to go up or go down, or open up or fade out, or all these things, they are category typical with these features of the second category. That's something that needs a bit more follow-up, and we have to check, okay, where is that going to? Also can have that in a geometrical sense, but you can also have an idea more in a way like we're not following how the form is as it is exactly. No, we just follow it up a little bit more. It's because it's already going towards something else. Last category, I'm still neglecting a little bit the practical part of that one, but I'm going to do that now a little bit better now in future by the explanations I'm going to provide in this video. Last category are the sounds that are very indirect influences. Like you have the noise or the vibrations or the reflections. So like, for instance, with you have the tendency that, okay, no, it's the full picture, it's a whole word which has an influence. When you have a vibration, everything will move towards something will connect to something, will open up something, will select something. That kind of effect it has, that we will go towards the frame of focus. We don't have a fixed point. We don't have a real direction to go to, and that makes it more complex. But still we can find a definition that we have an idea. Oh no, these indirect influences, we can still follow them up. And you have to follow them up in the way that you can also do that theoretically correct as well, into a theory that could be helpful to us as well, instead of these vague descriptions that you have now. And I will do that in this case. But first, okay, a very good example is that the first category is about, yes, let's start from something. So it is this physical idea. The second category is more, no, let's go towards something, to the change. And so we have the from in the first category, to the second category. The R is actually immediately a combination of, no, we go to see where we can start from and where it will go to. So it will use it as a frame, so it can immediately say, okay, I will not go too deep into that thing, but it's quite funny actually that once you know the frame where you have to look to, you also will get towards the context that it will get. For instance, if you have a frame before you, immediately you will deal with the things that are also very nearby. And so if it's the frame is taking you away from you, it's away from you, it gets a different context, it goes towards someone else, it goes towards a general focus, and so on. That's the kind of framing. So you move up your frame. The same thing happens also always in words, because we have in every word, it doesn't follow the 1, 2, 3 rule from 1 to 2 to 3. No, it mixes the categories the whole time. Here with road, for instance, the word, we immediately start from the third category. So if we only describe them as, yes, I have a placement for that, from something to something, I still don't know yet very well where I have to focus this upon. I simply take that as for granted when I start to describe it. Okay, let's go, it has to go to a point where I can start from, and then I can start from there is the basics actually, but where is it really going to is not fixed. It can move away. That's typical for the third category. It can move, just like you're watching a bird in the sky. You move along with that bird. It's just always connecting to that point where you can recognize a bird, but the movements of the R here, for instance, as well, you go to it and go from it, it will move along. So that's one of the categories that I have to work out more practically as well, that you understand it very well, how to focus upon it. Don't fix too much on it as if it has a fixed point. It doesn't. But let's start already to do that. So you have to and from, and of course I have the comparisons here. Where do you start from mostly? Here, of course, what lies before you on the earth. Where you go to, it's from you towards another thing, somewhere else, another opinion, to the future, for instance, from the past to the future in the time sense. So to and from will also go to a physical thing, and from that physical thing it will go and add it into a time frame. So it will have both moving along, and it will do that continuously. It will have a continuation. So you need this 1, 2, 3 rule, of course, where the R is in that position technically, but in a way it's also like, no, we connect to it so that we can repeat this idea also. And for having words and the word order and the letter order, we will need that repetition to find out, okay, where are we talking about? What's the context actually? How do we see that context? Are we still starting from our point? Go to somewhere else? Go we further away? These things automatically go along, just like you say, okay, if I use my frame, it's further away from me. Very logically, like you have that in geometry, you will have that in your associations available as well. Quite funny actually that I saw yesterday very accidentally something in video, half documentary, was about the frames of movement that that you can have in a movie, for instance. And a movie, it described it as like, okay, a movie is actually frames of photographs, and because our mind wants to connect them, it connects all of them, like with the R actually also, and it connects all the frames. And so while you have one movement to another movement, they developed also a tool that's what I saw in that documentary. They developed a tool where they only follow the changes, so that all the change that happened, the movement is the only thing that is recorded, so that it can use this recording of the changes all the time, the movements alone. So everything that remains fixed, there's no attention to, only what changes is going to looked upon. And I found that idea interesting, because these three categories that you have here are also working like that. You have the first category, which is about focusing upon the fixed things. So that's your focus. You see, okay, what do I have here? That's into the fixed positions. No, it doesn't matter if it's vague, if it's clear, if it's in multiple vision. If it is over, there are vague things in it, doesn't matter, but we focus upon a fixed position. They don't move. Once it starts to move, you are in the second category of letters with the movements, and these are the frames. And you go from one frame to another, and there are some changes, and there's the need for an adaptation to it, from going from one frame to another. The last category is like the movie. So it's like the full movement. We follow the movement, and there is a continuation there in the background going on. We follow the continuations much more, and the limitations that there are, that we see. Okay, but there are some changes there. There's changes in position, in space. The changes in form, or whatever it is, in what is going to change there, how it is adapting, and it adapts to according to context, according to the environment, according to a lot of things. But that framing that looks into it, that you can see where it is at all times, in all situations, that's the rule which we're going to use in that last category. So if we have the R as a first one, we need that rule also of this continuation. A, for instance, on the other hand, as we will have later as well, will be about fixed positions, of course. So, and there will be recognized the fixed positions. In R will not be recognized the fixed positions. We already do not really know at the beginning, where shall we connect to? You don't know that beforehand. And that's a typical thing that you need there and need further as well, and I will explain that further as well. So basically, it's also about focus into one center focus with your one eye, almost like you have the fixed positions where you start from. You have the 1-2 rule where you follow up what is changing, and the 1-2-3 rule where you can find the movement within its continuation. The letter O is from that second category, and basically it is also always associated like, okay, it's the environment. It's more like we go to the environment outside our physical realm, the environment. So as far as our arms almost can move to the U, the O from movement as well, movement around us. That's the surrounding, and we move towards somewhere else. We move and change the positions from there onwards. That's O. So it's from 1 to 2, and it will. That's the kind of focus. It will also go from 2, and then from with the R again from 2 in a continuation. It's also in a way there will be not just go from 2, but with the R to it, you will even have an extra adaptation, an extra need for adaptation. Where will it go to? You don't know that before, and so you need that attention. Where is that attention? I need the attention. Where it will go to, where it will connect to. You don't know that beforehand, because the R is the starting point. Then you have the A written down. Actually, you don't pronounce it in that way, but that's the fixed position. So we're not just dealing with a connecting to an environment where we have attention to, where we want to connect to in that environment and to these changes, but we see that also towards a fixed position, the fixed position. But as you see there, the A, it's also around the area of the center point of focus. It's about fixed position. Let's go to a fixed position where we will move to. In a way, we also will need, of course, a continuation, because the A on its own, it's just a position. We go towards a position. We have focused towards a fixed position. But because the O, road, is a combination of O plus A plus W almost like, and the A less important, but it's A as a focus, as a steady focus. You know that it has a foundation. There's a foundation there. We go to a certain foundation because A is the middle of it. O is a focus towards it. W is the form, how we go towards it, the adaptation. Again, you have almost a new, the 1, 2, 3 rule. We're going to adapt to it. And how we're going to adapt to it will be clear and will be explained very shortly. But also we need to adapt to where the letters are in the order of the word. So it's not just O first, then A first, then the R. No, we start from the R, then go towards the O, then go towards the A and the W and then the D. So we have to adapt even there, move its position with O, and then continue its foundation with A, with an adaptation to it with W. I will explain that in form. The A is also that foundation. So even in the frequencies, you have the A, it's a vibration as well, where we can say like, okay, it's just one, the 1 megahertz, not much more than that. It's there, it's vibrating the whole time. You can say it as one. But this one continues, it's always one, it's the basis, it's the foundation all the time. So if we need it further, if we have to move it, because of R and O, we have to move it, we move it in the same way. It doesn't change its quality. The quality is one, is our foundation, it remains our foundation, the foundation on the ground level. And if it's into 1, 2, 3 rule as well, because of R, we can, I already said, like, yeah, if you need A, not just on the basic level, but you combine it, especially with, you combine it with O, with the adaptation in the environment, you have the, not just the 1 rule, you also have the 1, 2 rule, or going towards on the level of A is going towards something in a horizontal level without changing anything. So I'm moving my basic position without actually changing anything. I have my foundation here in front of me when I'm standing, but I still have my foundation when I walk away from my place where I'm standing, and I still have my place of standing. So my place of standing can go along with us. It remains the basis. I'm walking with my feet on the ground, and they will be there on the ground the whole time. And my ground level, my A will be on the same ground level all the time, even if I move. So if I need move, if I add move to A, it's still on that ground level. But what if I need even on the 3rd level, if I have to adapt even to changes? What will be the context position then, the adaptive position, where I will find my context? How can I imagine that if I have the 1, 2, 3 rule from the level of A? I never had that before, but like I said, the 3rd level is about continuations. Not just once, not just twice, but the whole time. If I have to move to somewhere the whole time into the 1, 2, 3, well, where will it go to? Where will I move to? The W, which you hear automatically in it, is that 3rd position that describes what kind of move will I have there. The kind of move that you will have there is the adaptation. W is about adaptations outwardly. Like O follows up the movements and changes, W follows up the end results. So according to where the end results will get us to somewhere or to somewhere else, we will adapt to that one. That's the W. The W, you see it almost in the form, it's losing a bit of its power, but it follows actually automatically where it needs to be there. It's an adaptation process. That's what the W is. An adaptation is into the outer world. Automatisms that actually work out itself, actually, something like that. And the O, of course, with the combination O plus A plus M, you have that moving position with adaptation, where you follow it up with O, but you also adapt to according to context. You started from R, you have to adapt to context, and you connect to context. You connect to the towards the basic positions and the moving positions. You adapt accordingly the whole time. The last letter, the D, will add what will be done, or actually what will be the end result of all of this. You have this path of adaptation, let's say, which you have an automated adaptation into the environment where I go to, and so on. That's my intention. But the D itself, as a last letter, as a letter T, it says it's a position. Let's have a position. So let's take in a position. Let's take in a definition. Let's have even like say, okay, here I can find something that is useful. But as a D, it's also related with that fourth dimension. Actually, it's like you have a three-dimensional frame, and you say something has to change in time. And we go towards that frame that something is changing in time. We have to move or adapt physically as well. On the first level of the second category, we move actually horizontally on the plane of the physical plane, move and adapt to a changed position or changed situation from one position to another position. That's what D will do. So I move from one position to a next position onto that foundation of the ground that you have there. And that adaptation that you have there on the ground is not just about adaptation mentally in the movements and so on, but even the path itself will have an influence from this R. I will connect to the path itself according to my adaptations, to my decisions. It's not beforehand that the road I'm going to take is not a path which has been written out immediately. No, the road I'm going to take is a road which I adapt to according to what is practical, according to its changed conditions, according to its changed context. And that's also actually very much like a language does as well. So where the first category was about starting from fixed positions, the second category was about the adaptation process. The last processes in the last category were about a continuous movement of adaptation. So also here it is already beforehand predestined, because of the R, that there is an adaptation process involved, as at least as an intention. I'm going to connect via my environment, via the foundations that I found, to move from one place to another. So this adaptation process, which is also in the W in the background, is part of the process, part of also of the physical path and road that I'm going to find because of this. This road is not a street which has fixed positions. This road is also has a different form, a different context the whole time when I'm going to approach it from the connecting to these combined positions the whole time. That means that the road isn't a fixed thing. We start from with A, and A was a fixed place, O was the environment, but what we need is this movement from connecting from a position between two differences towards from R, so from the connecting towards the connecting myself, even towards a different position on the path, on the basis of my path, by adaptation, towards another place, from O to A, towards another place, where it basically was about movements and making steps forward from there onwards and onwards again, if you would like. And this kind of adaptation, seeing where the frame of attention will lead to, like we have from R onwards, finding its connections with the to and from automatically is the same thing as what happens in the language and influence, in the letter combination influence. And what I want to say is, you hear these letters and you have to adapt actually into the one rule. Okay, I find my starting point. Into 1, 2 rule. Okay, I have to go somewhere else. Or into the 1, 2, 3 rule, like with R as a starting foundation. I have to adapt the whole time. And I will see where the context that will bring it us, how this will look like, which form this will get. Just like in words, you have these influences. It's also the same thing for your whole learning process, which is described in this word wrote as well. And according to what the situation also needs, you adapt, you get a different path. And that's what the word wrote also means. There's some books here at the left to prepare you, some other books as well on the right if you want to go into a few different subjects as a preparation, to open up a little bit your mind to see how things work together and can work better together, instead of making ideas a little bit too fixed into one sort of definition. All these elements of open up the perspective towards using adaptation processes to every pattern that exists are described in these books. They are a kind of preparation for these things. I hope you enjoyed this one. It was quite a large video, but I needed these explanations to explain them enough before they're understandable. And I had a little bit a new principle as well, a bit better explained, the third category, which I mean. Thanks again for watching. Bye.